My name is Mike Cooper, Parish President for St. Tammany Parish. And we're here at the EOC in downtown Covington with a press conference to provide our citizens with information and updates regarding the tropical storm and soon-to-be Hurricane Marco, and possibly the same with Hurricane Laura, which both are in the Gulf or close to being in the Gulf and heading our way. And it's doing so, of course, right in the middle of pandemic. What challenges we have during this time, but I want to assure our citizens that we are certainly prepared to handle the oncoming storms as well as the public health crisis that we're having. This morning, we have with us on the podium Director of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness for St. Tammany Parish Government, Clarence Poe, Parish Councilman Riker Toledano, State Senator Sharon Hewitt, Chief Administrative Officer for St. Tammany Parish Government, Gina Hayes, Sheriff Randy Smith, and Mayor Donald Villery of Mandeville, who is serving his last 3 days in office with a double whammy of hurricanes coming our way. So what a way to go out. First of all, this morning, I signed an emergency declaration in advance of Tropical Storm Marco to put provisions in place for us to provide for any cleanup and such after the storm. We're currently under a tropical storm warning, and Director Clarence Poe will give us an update on that in just a few minutes. I would like to announce that non-essential personnel at parish government offices will close Monday, tomorrow, August 24th, and essential personnel are expected to report as assigned. And animal services will be closed to the public tomorrow. We are prepared, and we ask our residents to be prepared as well. We ask that you use today, which should be good weather most of the day, to fulfill your emergency supplies, and that you're fully stocked with particularly food, water, ice, and also be prepared for the provisions of COVID that we've been promoting all along: masks, gloves, and sanitizers, particularly if you need to leave your home for any reason. We will activate the Emergency Operations Center this evening at 7 o'clock, where Director Poe and all of the partners, utility partners, law enforcement, fire and emergency personnel, DOTD, and other agencies will be assembled here, along with other partners that will be working remotely and have access through web EOC. The Department of Public Works has opened today 6 sandbag locations. We have employees that are monitoring these sites, and there will be someone to assist the elderly or handicapped at each location today. We will be open until dusk this evening. Shovels will be provided for the self-serve. Citizens may want to throw a shovel in the back of your pickup truck in the event the shovels are being used. Tomorrow we will be distributing sandbags at 5 locations, beginning at 8 a.m. or until the weather no longer permits, or 6 p.m. These locations are the Airport Barn in Slidell, the Covington Public Works Barn, the Fritchie Barn in Slidell, the Keller Barn in Lacombe, the Coop Drive Complex, and tomorrow the Old Levee District site in Slidell will remain self-serve. Also, we have some closings to announce. The North Shore Beach has been closed to the public. The Bayou Lacombe Bridge on the Tammany Trace closes at 3 p.m. today, as there'll be no marine traffic. Other recreational venues that will be closing today include the Kids Connection at Coop Drive, the Tammany Trace, Camp Salmon, and the fishing pier in Slidell. I'd like to advise that our Public Works Department has contacted debris and monitoring contractors, and they are on standby and monitoring potential effects and impacts of the storm. Public Works and Tammany Utilities personnel are on call if needed out of abundance of caution. Star Transit will not run until the storm has passed and road conditions are reassessed. Coastal Environmental Services, a private recycling and garbage contractor, has notified me that they are suspending recycling this week. The normal recycling will not be picked up. However, garbage is expected to continue. However, there may be some changes in schedules that will be advised to the public as needed. I would like to advise that shelters have been identified. However, we will activate when the need arises, and we will notify the public as such. At this time, there are no orders for evacuations, and we will evaluate as conditions warrant to determine if evacuations are needed. I would like to give a number for our citizens to use to get storm updates. That number is 985-809-2300. You call that number, you'll have several options to get information regarding weather, sandbag locations, and hours of operation. You may also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and our website, www.stpgov.org. I will have some closing comments, but at this time, I'm going to call on Director of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness, Mr. Clarence Poe.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a few items about the storm. We know that Tropical Storm Marco is still moving north-northwest in the central Gulf. Looks like on Louisiana coastline, look like tomorrow morning they'll start to see some effects with Marco making landfall tomorrow afternoon around the Lafourche area. We should start seeing some of those effects tomorrow around midday. So we want to make sure everybody stay aware of what's going on, continue to watch the news, look at those avenues, approach where you gain information from. This morning, a tropical storm warnings were issued for St. Tammany Parish. That happened at 4:30 this morning, and that will continue on until further notice. Marco could make landfall as a Category 1 hurricane. Nothing to take lightly, okay? That's why I want you to stay abreast of what's going on, be prepared. Take this time that you have today to prepare for this storm. Parish President mentioned a few things that you need to make sure that you're taking care of. Some of those different things is to make sure that you clean out those catch basins. Make sure that they're clean. Our Public Works Department has executed all their storm level protocols, and they went out to look at the retention ponds and look at the drainage and different things. So those things are also there. We're looking at anywhere from 2 to 4 feet of storm surge on Lake Pontchartrain. Now that storm surge can come in, and we know that we're looking at 2 events right now, 2 storms. One of the things that we're concerned about is if the water comes in at the bank on Lake Pontchartrain, is it going to be enough time between storms for that water to recede? So we got to stay abreast. I want you to keep an eye on that, okay? Because if Laura comes in and continue to bank water, then we want to make sure that we're watching that. If we need to put out flood warnings, if we have to call for an evacuation in those areas, we'll be prepared to do that. Laura is actually going to be in the Gulf of Mexico early tomorrow, and it's going to make landfall around Wednesday, and that's out around the Terrebonne area. So as you can look at that, you look at Lafourche Parish and Terrebonne Parish, and they're right next to one another, so they're pretty much coming in the same area, same avenue. One thing that's pushing these storms, we know that there's a high that's coming out of the east, and that's what's pushing these storms to the west. We still got a couple of more updates to see how that's going to affect us, but we won't let our guard down. We'll continue to prep and be prepared. Looking at these storms on the track that they're in right now, for both storms, we are on the right side of the storm. Okay, that's where you have most of the major impacts is on the right side of the storm. So by all means, don't take this lightly. Stay abreast of what's going on. Stay aware. Make sure that you pay attention to your local news. If we do call it for an evacuation, we'll get that out as quick as we can. Other than that, like I say, stay abreast of what's going on. It's nothing to take lightly. Okay. This is probably once in a lifetime event that's going to happen when you have two storms on the same track. So we're looking at those different things, and by all rights, there are some uncertainties there to exactly what's going to happen. With Laura right now, it's overland in the Dominican Republic. Nobody knows the effects we're going to have from Laura. Okay, right now it's forecast once it comes off the Dominican Republic, it hits hot water. The capabilities and the mixture is there for the storm to increase and continue to gain strength, and probably will go up to a Category 1 and probably be at the borders of Category 2 storm as it comes in. Those are the forecasts right now, so we'll continue to watch this. We'll provide those updates as we see them. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Clarence. I'm going to call on Sheriff Randy Smith to give us an update with regards to law enforcement and his agency, and then following him will be State Senator Sharon Hewitt.
Thank you, Parish President. We at Sheriff's Office are prepared for any situation regarding both of these storms. Our high water vehicles are set and prepared with the manpower, our boats, and we're set working with our partners at fire departments to respond to any type of need. This is, we're expecting a lot of rainfall, power outages. We have a plan, and we want the public to have a plan in place. Be concerned of elderly, senior citizens, pets, debris that can fly in and around your yards, and you know the areas you live in that are prone to flooding. So make preparations. If we do get an evacuation order, then heed to it. We're there to protect you and to keep you safe throughout this storm. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm in constant communication with the state EOC, and I'm getting regular updates. As you know, the governor declared a state of emergency yesterday, and all of the state agencies then have begun their protocols for preparing for a hurricane. And I'll be working with the legislative delegation to make sure that President Cooper and his team get all the state resources that they need. And so be safe. You know, and prayers are with all the citizens, and I encourage you again to stay tuned to the news and heed all of the warnings and the advice from President Cooper. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Riker Toledano, the Parish Councilman for District 5. Thank you all for being here today. First thing I want to say is a particular thanks for our first responders and our Public Works Department here in St. Tammany Parish. These people on these type of events fall out 24 hours a day. They're available. They're there to help our citizens, and they do a great job, and all of us are very appreciative of that. As President Cooper mentioned, this is a very unusual storm phenomenon with two storms in the Gulf. The data is not available for this. There's a lot of non-predictability about this, as Clarence pointed out. So we urge each and every one of our citizens to be vigilant. Prepare your checklist for your family and your household so you don't leave out critical items when they're not available. Particularly, it's important to us that all of us be alert to our neighbors who are elderly and infirm. take the time and effort to check on them, see what they need, and be there to provide support for them. All of your councilmen here in this parish are closely monitoring this storm. They stand ready and willing to help us when needed. Feel free to call upon them. For all of our citizens out there, God be with you and your family. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, in Mandeville, when we constantly see lake levels rise and we have lower parts of our city that get inundated by water, you know, I've already put out an order yesterday as far as for people to consider evacuating where they have problems to make sure that the ill and the elderly are cared for by their family as far as to move to safe areas. And I just want to stress that these two storms coming back to back is almost unprecedented, and we're lucky that right now it doesn't appear that we're going to get a direct hit, but mostly what we're going to get is the rain and the water from the rise of Lake Pontchartrain. And we need to be ever vigilant as far as what's happening there. Our police are staging barricades. We ask people to be respectful of those barricades. Don't go around them when they are there. They're for everyone's safety. Public Works is removing everything from the lakefront and from the lower areas, and they're checking all of the hot spots, if you will, as far as for drainage to make sure that everyone, everyone drains safely. So help us out as far as clean out those culverts in front of your property and make sure that everything runs smoothly. Thank you so much, and God be with you all.
Thank you, Mayor, and thanks everyone for sharing those updates. I may point out that we're in constant communication and we provide information to our mayors and other elected officials, our legislative delegation, school board members, and elected officials at every level to keep them informed. We only have a representative group up here this morning due to physical distancing and gathering within one location. So we're thankful that these representatives here today are able to share these updates. I want to also emphasize that due to the two storms coming in such close fashion, that we may experience downed trees from the first storm and power outages that may be extended before the time period for repair may be extended, and our citizens need to be aware of that and prepare for longer periods of time if power does in fact go out. There are certain protocols that utility companies must take before they're able to get back out to help restore power. So we hope that that doesn't happen, but we ask our citizens to be prepared for that in the event of such a case. That again is to emphasize stock up on your groceries, water, ice, and other provisions in the event that we have to stay in shelter, stay in place for a long period of time, which for us is a matter of days, is a long period of time if we're not able to get out and about. So please do so. And again, I want to thank the media for being here to cover this. We will continue to give updates and notify you of when other updates are available. Please feel free to contact Amy Bouton, Public Information Officer, if you need to get with me in the interim. But we will be having regular press conferences and media alerts to keep you all keep you and the public informed. I'm thinking if there's anything else I need to cover. Amy? Okay, yes, I will open to questions.
Mike or Clarence, I know the parish has some pretty sophisticated modeling equipment. Can it handle back-to-back storms like this? And is it telling you where problem areas might occur, given what we know so far about these storms?
Absolutely. When it comes to modeling, I've talked to the National Hurricane Center out of Miami, and I can tell you they've having a problem with modeling, especially when it comes to 2 storms back to back like that. The things that we're focusing on right now is actually duration. How long is it going to take for Marco to get in? How long is it going to be between the 2 storms, and what's that duration is going to be to push water into the shorelines? So those are things we're looking at. For as local modeling, there is nothing there that we can do on local modeling to actually determine the effects of this storm. That's why when you look at it now and you see where there's so much uncertainty on exactly what Laura is going to do. So the modeling that we have right now, that's why you see the models all over the place. The main thing that we're focusing on is just the duration of the storm itself.
And I might point out that while we're talking about the projected path of Marco now and the projected path of Laura, if you recall yesterday at 1 o'clock, Marco was going further west towards the Texas coast. And that was about 1 o'clock. When the 4 o'clock update came out, actually I was at Mass at St. Peter Church, and when I got to my car, my phone was buzzing saying, the storm is coming our way. It changed that quick, and we had to, of course we were prepared, but preparing now for the storm to come directly our way. And based on the projections that we have today, the storm surge that we're projecting, based on the National Weather Service, could be 2 to 4 feet along Lake Pontchartrain, and that would affect some areas in Madisonville, Mandeville, Lacombe, and Slidell, of course. So that's what we're preparing for now, but we certainly hope that we get some stroke of luck or nature that the storm actually does go further west to minimize the impacts, particularly on the coast of Lake Pontchartrain and inland.
Mike, do you or Clarence believe that it'll stay at 2 to 4, or do you think Laura is just going to build on top of that? Will there be enough time for that surge to clear, do you think, or should we anticipate higher surges than 2 to 4 feet?
Yeah, you have an answer for that? Because I do too. It may not be as scientific as Clarence's. I believe, based on what I've read and seen from the National Weather Service, that the actual, if it stays course of what we have today, that the surge would be 3 to 5 feet, just a bit more than what it is now, because the inland water may not have time to totally recede when Laura gets here. Was that good, Clarence?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Is there any concern about river levels?
Well, the wind with the southeast wind or south wind, that will certainly move the river levels up as well. And depending on the amount of rain that we receive, particularly north of us, that will have effects on riverine flooding, and those that may be accustomed to getting flooding along the smaller rivers, the Little Tchefuncte River, the Bogaflyer River, and other drainage features, and even the Big Tchefuncte River, may have to prepare for such.
Can you talk just a little bit more about some of the precautions for COVID that you all have in place? I know you said you've identified some shelters should they need to be activated, if there were to be rescues or that kind of thing. What are some of those safety measures that are in place? Because I think it's easy to forget that COVID is still a thing right now.
Certainly. Clarence?
Yes, as we all know, with dealing with this, we still got to respond to COVID also. We're sheltering what the state has already filed for a federal declaration for what they call Category B. That's those pre-storm protective measures. One of the things that they're looking at is for a non-congregate sheltering, meaning that if we open up shelters, if we know that there is somebody that is positive, then try to put them in a non-congregate shelter, I mean in a hotel or something to that aspect. So that's what we're looking at, trying to see if that funding is going to be available. The state has already filed that federal deck with FEMA, so we're waiting on that. So that's the avenue that we plan on taking.
So Clarence, we don't
Yes,
know
sir.
if we have the funding for that type of shelter at this point, or do you expect to hear shortly on that?
I expect to hear from it shortly. I just saw that that declaration that came through yesterday that was actually filed yesterday. So that's what they're working on now, to have that approval for those Cat B measures. Okay.
I would like to add to that. You know, we're asking our citizens to be prepared, and if they live in areas that are prone to flooding, I would ask that they make plans to move to higher ground, to higher shelter, maybe with family members or such in higher ground, whether it be in St. Tammany or beyond. Please watch the weather alerts, watch everything about the weather and the incoming storms. And if you know that you may experience flooding and you don't have the food, you don't have the, you don't want to go to a shelter where there's protocol, there'll be strict protocols in the event a shelter is open. Please leave in advance so that you're not in a position to have to be rescued as such. We're not anticipating any type of emergency evacuations, but those conditions may warrant so in the future. But we want our citizens to be prepared, and if you're used to taking water in and you're unable to leave your home, you may want to make plans with family members to do so.
Sheriff Smith, to sort of hammer on that point, do you anticipate, given what we know about these storms, will your department be fully operational through this, or do you think there will be some downtime where your deputies will not be able to get out and effect rescues?
Once it's safe for our deputies to respond in a rescue mission, we will do so. Again, we work closely with the other agencies, the municipal agencies, state police, and all our fire districts here in the parish to activate the areas that are affected the worst, to respond to those emergency situations, whatever they may be. So we are prepared, and we want our public to be prepared and have a plan as well. But yes, we're up and ready 24/7 to respond.
What conditions may not allow you to get out? If somebody stays in one of these low-lying areas and has a medical condition or something like that, those people need to take care.
Those are the people we're concerned about, and they know who they are that live in the flood-prone areas that the president talked about. We will have equipment and personnel ready to respond when it is safe. But if they are dealing with the elderly or people who live in these flood-prone areas that we expect to see a high increase in the rainfall amounts, then they need to have a plan to get out.
If there are no other questions, I want to again thank the media for covering this. I want to thank the elected officials that are here this morning to help show support of the efforts that we're taking during this event, during this unusual event. And I too want to give a shout out to what I call Team Tammany, which are all the departments of St. Tammany Parish government that even before this morning have been working hard to prepare our parish, to prepare to serve our citizens in the event of heavy rains, heavy winds, and the recovery thereafter. So thanks to all of our great workers and employees and public servants at St. Tammany Parish government. And thanks you again for being here this morning.